Labour is pledging to end the harassment of women online by tackling it at the source. They're planning to give teachers the tools to end sexual harassment and bad influences affecting young men.
Well, let's speak to the Shadow Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, about all of this. Good morning to you, Bridget. And this is about real, physical, in-class male role models to try and counter the influences of the likes of Andrew Tate, who, as we all know, have really poisoned a generation of young men.
Absolutely. I think young men have got a really important role to play within their school communities and demonstrating positive role models, not just allowing young men to see some of that negative online messaging. And that's why I'm setting out today how we will support schools to enable young men to be trained as mentors for younger children with staff support, with the tools that they need. And alongside that, wider action that we need to see, because we are facing this growing scourge of misogyny and sexual harassment within our schools as well as online. And it's vital that we take action so that children are well supported, but also that staff aren't subjected to unacceptable behaviour as well. And that's why our plans around Ofsted doing annual safeguarding reviews, more mental health support in school, and also greater steps to support young people with their digital literacy so they can fully assess what's in front of them will be an important part of tackling what is a big societal problem that we see at the moment.
How big, Bridget? That's the question. How does it manifest itself?
It is a big problem, and the reports that I hear from students and staff alike is that this can involve bullying online of a sexual nature, misogynistic comments, but also sadly within the classroom as well. So sometimes towards staff or students, unacceptable behaviours, physical intimidation and misogynistic language and attitudes. And I believe we've got a responsibility to tackle it. If I were Education Secretary, I'd be making sure that schools have got what they need to make change happen, that they feel supported, and that everyone within our schools can feel that it's a safe, welcoming and inclusive environment. I think that is right for young men and for young women.
It's interesting, last week we were speaking to the government about plans to ban smartphones within schools. This week you're putting forward plans to try and counter some of those male influences coming through on social media. Why isn't anyone, government in waiting or current government, talking about actually saying smartphones shouldn't be available for anyone under the age of 18? These are immature people that we're talking about, unable to cope with a lot of what is on there, and the consequences of that on young people can be devastating. We shouldn't be seeing a 70% rise in misogyny in classrooms against female teachers from our young men. We're doing something wrong. As adults, we have to grasp the nettle on this.
We do, and we need to see more regulation where it comes to the online space. I don't think the legislation the government set out goes far enough in terms of tackling some of that hateful content that young people are exposed to online. So there is more action that needs to happen there. Where it comes to phones in schools, the vast majority of schools already ban phones, and that's as it should be, because we don't want disruption to children's learning when they're in school. But I think given that we do have that technology that's out there, we need to make sure that young people have got the skills that they need to navigate that world. And there are real dangers that come of some of that technology, but there is the real potential for benefit as well, whether it's, you know, some of the way in which learning can be supported through online apps, through other ways of teaching children. There are positives, there can be benefits, but absolutely we need to do more to regulate that material where it's not appropriate, where we don't want to see children exposed to it. And I think for parents too, parents feeling that they've got the tools that they need to stop young people accessing inappropriate material or limiting their time using devices or smartphones.
It's this rise in sextortion as well. It's being exposed by the Mirror today. 100 children a day in this country are victims of this, and they point to the case study of a 16-year-old boy who took his own life. They're saying that 390% increase in children being blackmailed over naked images. I mean, at what point are we going to say enough is enough? And, you know, it's very easy to say we need to clamp down on the tech companies. They're not going to do it. It's not in their interests. They're making money through getting kids. We know how addictive it is. It's not in their interests. It's down to us to sort this out.
I mean, the case that you've just mentioned and some of the wider cases that I've seen are absolutely tragic. And I think a part of it is about making sure that young people have got the skills and the knowledge that they need to understand what's going on, and to make sure that they feel they can not engage in some of that and understand where consequences can flow if images are shared, and that there is the potential for that then to be shared further. But I do think alongside that, many parents do want their children to have, secondary school children in particular, to have access to a phone if they're coming back from school, so that they can tell their parents where they are and what they're doing, and if they're staying late after school. There's a balance to strike. But I think what we need to make sure is that young people have got the digital literacy skills that they need to understand how to stay safe, but also to be able to assess what's in front of them. So not to take things at face value, and to make sure that they're asking questions, they understand how to do that. This is a really difficult area. The technology is shifting fast. But I think there is in some cases a balance that we need to strike between the safety of young people, but also the advances that can be there in terms of what technology can offer.
Thank you very much indeed, Bridget Phillipson.